young group of guys that are going to be able to entertain people. I mean, we're playing really good baseball since the breaks. We got all the young guys up here.
Give me the baseball and let me play. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about numbers. I just want to get on the field and play. We don't have, any of the big name stars or anything like that, like we did earlier with Bonilla and Saberhagen, but I think that we've got a bunch of guys that are going after the same goal.
What you're going to see is a team that's exciting to watch, that gives you 100% effort every night, and has a new cast of emerging young stars.
I'm normally a slow starter, but and a strong finisher. And as the year goes on, I normally just get better and better.
I want to come somewhere that I was wanted. I was at a point in time I was tired of hearing about getting traded in St. Louis, and to know that the New York Mets wanted me and, welcomed me with open arms, I was pleased to be here.
We do have some interesting kids, and we've got an interesting team. We played well for 60. The theme obviously is, can we do it for 160?
From the sports complex in Port St. Lucie, Florida, today the Mets host the Houston Astros. Mets Baseball 96 is brought to you by New Miller Beer, brewed from the heart of the hops. Like Hampton with a record of 9-8 last year, and number on average at 3.35. And on the mound for the Mets, Paul Wilson, 11-6, a combined record at AA and AAA. He led the minor leagues in strikeouts, 194 Ks in 186 innings.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first telecast of what should be a very exciting season of Mets baseball. I'm Tim McCarver, along with Ralph Kiner. And Ralph, everything with the big expectations this year, and everything centered around 4 starting pitchers, and they are a fabulous foursome, I might add. Jason Isringhausen, Bill Pulsipher, and Paul Wilson, who's starting today, along with another right-hander, Juan Acevedo, obtained in the Brett Saberhagen trade last year. So phenoms on the mound and a phenom at shortstop.
Well, he might change the whole picture of the Mets baseball scene because he's outstanding. Ray Ordonez is the shortstop, and he has just about clinched the job at shortstop, and he is outstanding. And also a little problem for the Mets, but maybe not, because Butch Husky is playing first base. He'll be there in today's ball game, and Butch, a power hitter, and the Mets need power, might get a chance to get into the lineup due to the fact that Bronya has a bad knee.
Rico Bronya will be out for 3 more weeks, and I think that's one thing that Dallas Green has this year that he didn't have last year, and that's flexibility in the infield. For instance, if Ordonez doesn't produce offensively and they have to think about sending him down, they can always put Vizcaíno there. They've got Edgardo Alfonso and Jeff Kent, who's starting at third today.
Should be an outstanding season for the New York Mets. We're looking forward to it. I hope you are too.
Well, the Mets are back and will be back right after this from Lawn Doctor.
Welcome back to Port St. Lucie, and the Mets against the Houston Astros. We have as our special guest Dallas Green, and Dallas with a smile on his face most of the time here in spring training. This ball club looks good, Dallas.
Well, it does to me, Ralph. I mean, it's early. We understand that, but we're trying to build off what we did last year, the 60 days, obviously, that we played very good baseball. I told our kids that's past now. We got to kick ourselves up to the next level. We got to do it for 160, and we're working hard this spring to make sure that happens.
And some changes for the New York Mets, and one of the most important changes, you have speed in the ball club this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to operate with that. We haven't had it since I've been here, but with the addition of Lance Johnson, Gilkey can add a little speed. The guys that we had, I think we've worked very hard on our base running, on stealing bases and being aggressive on the bases. This is a new dimension for the Mets, and it's something that I wanted to work hard on in spring training. Bobby Valentine, Mookie Wilson have done a great job in getting our guys aggressive and going after extra bases and stealing bases, and I think we've done a good job down here.
Last night's ball game, Lance Johnson with the runner going on a stolen base, went out, blocked the view of the catcher, did a professional job. He's learned well.
Well, he is a professional, Ralph. He's stealing bases, obviously, is his forte. He knows what it takes to be the hitter behind the guy that steals the base, so he can help us in a lot of ways, and he's helped instruct some of our young kids, our young people, to how to get good breaks and leads, and he's been a great addition to our ball club so far.
An optimistic Dallas Green, and certainly well planned, because it looks like a great year. Dallas, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ralph.
We'll be back with the start of today's game in just a moment. First, here's a word from the United States Postal Service.
The young Mets pitching staff, much heralded and none more heralded than Paul Wilson. He's 6'5". When he signed, he weighed 235 pounds. He was the first player selected in the 1994 draft. He lost 25 pounds after going 0-7. I guess that'll get you to shed some pounds. And he is lean and mean. Last year, 11-6, and as Ralph said, 194 Ks and 187 innings. And the first batter, Brian Hunter, the center fielder of the Astros, flies to Gary Thurman in center, one away.
And the Astro lineup is brought to you by Honda. Brian Hunter leading off, batting second, the right fielder, James Mouton. Batting third, the left fielder, formerly with the Chicago Cubs, Derek May. Batting in the fourth position, Mike Sims at first base. Batting fifth, the catcher, Tony Eusebio. Batting sixth at third base, Bill Spires. Batting seventh, the second baseman, Bill Hojak.
And on the first pitch, James Mouton pops to Butch Husky at first base. So 2 air balls in 3 pitches for Paul Wilson, 2 down here in the first.
And the rest of the Houston lineup, Ricky Gutierrez is the shortstop. He'll be batting 8th, and Mike Hampton, the pitcher, batting 9th.
Defensively for the Mets, Bernard Gilkey, Gary Thurman, Carl Everett in right, Jeff Kent, Ray Ordonez. You'll be hearing a lot about that young man. He's at shortstop. Edgardo Alfonso at second, Butch Husky at first, and Brent Main behind the plate as Derek May takes a strike from Paul Wilson. No balls and 2 strikes to May. So a good spring for Derek May. And he hammers one foul. Still 0-2 to May. Paul Wilson, pitch for the Florida State Seminoles. He's from Florida, reigns from Orlando, only 23 years old.
He's wise for those 23 years. He's very, very astute.
Astute with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Derek May. That'll make you smart.
That's a good combination, isn't it? Your IQ goes up in a hurry with that fastball.
May stays alive, fouls one off, still 1-2 to Derek May.
Derek May's father, Dave May, played in the major leagues. And there's a birthday boy right there.
Greg Pavlik, the pitching coach of the Mets, 46 years old today. Inside, 2-2 to May. May is jammed. Boy, he's throwing hard early. He has pitched in 2 games, has Wilson. He's worked 5 innings. He's given up only 4 hits in 2 appearances this year. One against the Atlanta Braves, the other against Houston. He beat Houston last Tuesday afternoon. There's a changeup. So Wilson has featured about a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, moving it in and out. And with that changeup, that could be a lethal combination.
That's the pitch he's been working on. He has a fine slider to go with his fastball, and the change is the other pitch he needs.
There's the slider, and May is down on strikes as the Astros go 3 up, 3 down. And the Mets coming up after this from Miller Beer. 3 up, 3 down were the Astros in the top of the first. Paul Wilson, very impressive, and Mike Hampton, a left-hander who was 1-2 against the Mets last year, is starting for Houston this afternoon.
And the Mets lineup is brought to you by a tri-state quality Ford dealer. Gary Thurman will lead it off. Batting second, the shortstop, Ray Ordonez. Batting third, the left fielder, Bernard Gilkey. Batting fourth at first base, Butch Husky. Batting fifth, the third baseman, Jeff Kent. Batting sixth, the right fielder, Carl Everett. Batting seventh, the second baseman, Edgardo Alfonso. The eighth batter, the catcher, Brent Maine. And Paul Wilson, the pitcher, batting ninth.
And the first pitch to Gary Thurman, who was formerly with the Kansas City Royals, Detroit Tigers, Seattle Mariners. And he takes ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes to Gary Thurman. Gary with Seattle last year in that dream season of the Seattle Mariners when they won the Western Division of the American League in the 145th game of the season. I remember last year only 144 games long, but it took Seattle 1 extra day to do it as they beat California.
And that ball club revived the interest in baseball in Seattle.
It really did. 3-0 to Thurman. Here's a strike, 3-1.
You know, actually, the playoffs, I think, Tim, brought baseball back more than anything else. Maybe possibly it was the breaking of Lou Gehrig's record by Carl Ripken Jr. that brought it back, but also the playoff games.
Thurman taps to third. So 1 out, and Ray Ordonez, the batter.
Shortstop, number 0, Ray Ordonez.
He wears the number 0 because that's usually the number of errors he commits during a season.
Ironically, the first chance he had in spring training in a Mets uniform, he made a throwing error.
Right, isn't that something? Ordonez from Havana, Cuba, 23 years old, I beg your pardon, and he takes a strike from Mike Hampton. A .214 batter last year at Norfolk, the AAA affiliate of the Mets. But he's having a good spring after a terrific winter. A winter that saw him hit .351 in Puerto Rico. Now, I know it's not major league pitching all the time in winter baseball, but he was second in that league to Roberto Alomar in hitting. Ground ball to short. Gutierrez throws out his counterpart. 2 outs here in the first inning. Defensively for Houston, Eric May in left field, Brian Hunter in center, James Mouton, the right fielder, the ex-Med Bill Spires at third, Ricky Gutierrez at short, John Hayjack at second base, Dave Sims at first, and Tony Eusebio behind the plate. So John Hayjack, it's David Hayjack at second base. As Bernard Gilkey, who was only 1 for 15 on the spring, but a real professional hitter, this guy. .298 leading the Cardinals last year. 0-1 to Gilkey. Ground ball to shortstop. Again, Gutierrez. And the Mets, like the Astros, go in order. No score after 1. We'll be back after this from White Castle.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time.
Well, that young lady will have a lot of company this year. Big expectations from this young ball club. I don't know about those 3 guys.
No expectations at all there.
Tim and Ralph are here this afternoon. Gary Thorne doing hockey on Hockey Night in America on ESPN.
First baseman.
And Gary will be joining us on Thursday evening when the Mets meet the Los Angeles Dodgers. Mike Sims, the first baseman, leading off against Paul Wilson. Wilson retiring the Astros in order in the first inning. Fly ball to center, a foul out to Butch Husky, and then getting Derek May on strikes. breaking ball is low, ball 1. 1 ball, no strikes to Mike Sims, who has struggled through the Houston organization for the last 10 years, spending parts of the last 5 seasons with the Astros. Tapped foul. 1-1 to Mike Sims. No score here in the second. Matt Galante from Staten Island, the third base coach. And I guess the umpires are certainly worthy of note today. Hiroshi Tani behind the plate. Osamu Ino at first. Paul Nart down at second base. And Harry Wendelstedt, of course, not only the crew chief, but Harry, the senior umpire in the National League. As Sims went too far, 1-2. There's Harry.
Runs an umpire school in the Goodman right down here in Florida.
Really an unprecedented exchange designed to strengthen the long-standing relationships with Japanese baseball. An exchange program in umpires this spring. You folks may have read about that. 4 Japanese umpires have come to the United States in spring training, 2 of whom are working today. There's Hiroshi Tani. And both attended Harry Wendelstedt's umpiring school here in Florida back in the early 80s. Breaking ball outside, full count. As a matter of fact, Dallas Green talked about Bobby Ballantyne. When Bobby Ballantyne was the manager in the Central League of Japan last year, both umpires managed in his division. So Bobby Ballantyne certainly familiar with the 2 Japanese umpires today. High hopper, and Jeff Kent throws out Sims. 4 in a row now, retired by Paul Wilson.
And the umpires do not speak English, but there certainly is an international language in baseball, because the umpire with the same signs and gestures that they use here in the States. Kent at third base now, something that the Mets contemplated over several years, and now over there probably for the start of the season.
Certainly looks that way, with Vizcaíno probably starting at second base, as the breaking ball is outside to Tony Eusebio, the Houston catcher. There's Edgardo Alfonso, another slider, 1-1 to Eusebio. And that's the one thing that if there is a gray area as far as the Mets are concerned, it's the how do you keep Edgardo Alfonso out of the lineup after the year he had last year?
What a great year he had last year, and what a great prospect he is. I don't think you're going to keep him out of the lineup, but it does give Dallas Green a lot of combinations. Alfonso can play third, he can play second, he can play shortstop in a pinch. In fact, Ordonez ran him out of the shortstop job at Binghamton 2 years ago.
High hopper, and Alfonso throws out Eusebio. We have not heard a loud foul off the Houston bats in the first 5 hitters.
Well, there must be a good sinker going for Paul Wilson, because that ball has been hit on the ground. There's the chopper, not well hit. Alfonso with the throw to first base, and an outstanding prospect.
Bill Spires, who spent the 1995 season with New York, takes a fastball low. Bill 1 for 12 on the spring. Add some depth to that Houston ball club. And talking to Terry Kennedy, the manager of the Astros, telling me before the game that he likes his starting, I should say Terry Collins, he likes his starting 8 players, but his Houston team is very thin this year. A lot of people think that they will contend with Cincinnati and St. Louis for the Central Division of the National League Championship. There's Terry Collins.
They got a big boost when Biggio decided to sign for less money and stay in Houston. He had been offered more money to go somewhere else. So that really did help their cause.
Second baseman, number 30.
Bill Spires draws a walk. Craig Biggio signing a $22 million contract with the Astros after being offered $25 million by the St. Louis Cardinals. And speaking of those numbers, if that guy in your picture stays healthy, those are the numbers he's going to command in about 3 or 4 years. David Hajek, the shortstop, after a throw to first. And everybody can see Wilson's fastball. You can see his breaking ball. You can see the changeup. What you can't see is the inner workings of Paul, and that's what impresses almost everybody around the Mets camp. How poised he is, how mature, how confident. But of course, the same could be said about Isringhausen and Pulsipher too. 1-0 to Hayjack in the breaking ball for a strike. 1-1.
If there's one thing in this ball club, Tim, this year that we haven't seen for a while, the attitude of the ball club is just tremendous. Young, let's go get him attitude and enthusiasm like we haven't seen for a long time.
I think this is, and I'm trying to get it as fairly stated without any hype, I think this is as exciting a spring and as optimistic a spring as the Mets have enjoyed since 1989, when after the '88 season, they beat the lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 7 games. Big expectations in '89, and things went downhill from there. But where you talk about a guy who is leading an uphill charge, that's Dallas Green. Strike 3 to Hayjack. Second strikeout for Wilson. And the Astros get a base runner but don't score. After 1.5 no score, and we're back after this from Nobody Beats the Wiz. Or cold or hot. Well, a visit from the ex-general manager of the Mets, Frank Cashin, who lives, what, about a driver from here.
Not my driver. Maybe yours.
Well, mine would slice over there.
Yeah, it would take a circuitous route. There's no question about it.
Great to see Frank down here now in a consulting capacity.
For doing some scouting.
Yeah, doing some scouting. And if he scouted Mike Hampton, the left-hander of the Astros, he would have good things to say. As Butch Husky leads off and hammers one to short, caught by Gutierrez. 1 pitch, 1 out here in the 4th.
Third baseman, number 12, Jeff Kent.
You know, Mike Hampton comes from Homosassa, Florida. And for those of you who remember the Brooklyn Dodgers back in the 20s and 30s, Dazzy Vance came out of that town.
Hall of Famer. As Jeff Kent steps in, Jeff 2 for 12, normally a slow starter, not only in spring training, but during the season also. Jeff trying to get on track early here in '96. Ground ball toward short. Nice play, Gutierrez. Low throw and picked by Sims. 2 outs.
2 pitches and 2 outs. That's a fast start.
Right fielder, number 3, Carl Everett.
I mentioned the Hall of Famer Dazzy Vance, and 4 new entries, Ralph, this year.
Well, Jim Bunning we all saw. Terrific sidearm right-handed pitcher. Pitched no-hitters in both legs. Earl Weaver, of course, a manager of the Baltimore Orioles. Ned Hanlon, an old-time manager of the Baltimore Orioles. And Bill Foster, a Negro League pitcher who had outstanding stuff. All going into the Hall of Fame. I was talking with Al Lopez, who's in the Hall of Fame, and he was talking about Dazzy Vance. And he said he not only threw the ball as hard as anybody that ever lived, he also was mean, mean, mean.
0-2 to Carl Everett, and the fastball from Hampton outside. 1-2.
He said he'd knock you down in a second.
Carl Everett knocking down some numbers in the second half of '95 as he fouls it back. He started the season with the Mets. He was sent down to Norfolk on May 15th. He hit .300 in the Mets AAA affiliate, and then he came back on July 25th, and in the next 62 games hit 9 home runs and drove in 48 runs, 280 at bats, batting .276. So he, almost a microcosm of the Mets. He's hoping his second half, along with the Mets' second half, carries into '96. 2-2 to Carl. Full count to Carl Everett.
Of course, the Mets were in last place. They picked up 18 games on the Philadelphia Phillies last year to finish in a tie with the Phillies. Phillies, of course, one time leading the National League.
Line drive to left field, and it falls in front of Derek May. So Carl Everett with the first hit of the ball game is a two-out base runner with Edgardo Alfonzo coming up.
Second baseman, number 13, Edgardo.
Now the Mets tied with the Phillies last year for second place, largely on the record of their second half of the season. They were 44-31 in the second half of the season. Now that winning percentage was 225 points higher than their percentage during the first half of the season. And since 1933, only 3 other teams have had a greater improvement in their winning percentage from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. Most recently, the '79 Dodgers. This is a graphic put out by the Elias Sports Bureau in the most recent preseason edition of Sports Illustrated, and worthy of digesting. Dodgers in '79, Cardinals in '40, and the 1935 St. Louis Browns.
And
2 balls and no strikes to Edgardo Alfonzo.
There was a 1914 Boston Braves that were in last place on July 4th and won the pennant that year, and then swept the World Series against the Philadelphia Athletics 4-0.
Well, to make it easier, Elias selected the All-Star game, and of course the first All-Star game was 1933 in Chicago at Comiskey Park. So I'm sure that teams that played prior to 1933, there could have been better winning percentages in the second half of the season than the first half, but we chose the All-Star break for round reasons. That throw almost eluding Dave Sims, the first baseman. Everett back in time. A good running situation with 2 outs, 2 and 1 to Alfonzo. No score here in the second. Another throw to first, and Everett diving in this time.
Everett with a big lead at first base. He was not a stolen baseman for the Mets last year. He does have outstanding speed. And the Mets will see a lot of base stealing this year. They have 14 stolen bases already this season in 9 ball games in the spring training season.
And there goes Everett. Fastball is high. The throw by Eusebio right on the money. So a fine throw by the Houston catcher. The Mets fail to score. No score after 2, and we're back after this from FedEx. No score, top of the 3rd inning. Tim McCarver and Ralph Kiner now joined by the current general manager of the New York Mets, Joe McIlvain. And I say current, Joe, because we just had Frank Cashin in here last half inning.
Oh, good. I didn't know Frank was coming up. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And,
well, Frank's been doing some scouting for us this year, Timmy. We've got him out on some ball clubs. He's doing the Orioles, his old team that he used to run, and the 2 teams in West Palm, the Braves and the Expos, as well as the Mets. So we put Frank to work this spring.
Well, the Orioles will be visiting Thomas J. White Sports Complex this Friday night, and I understand that you can't print the tickets fast enough. Everybody happy about seeing Cal Ripken Jr.
And Tuesday as well with the Braves coming in.
Atlanta, the world champions, as Ricky Gutierrez fouls one back, 0-1. And Joe, where do you curb your optimism about this season? I mean, every place you go, everything you read about, the young pitchers, the good ball club that you have, and obviously everybody knows that it's not that easy. But these young pitchers are not only good, they're confident. 0-2 to Gutierrez.
Well, that's right, Timmy. You know, the biggest hurdle we have is inexperience. We've got a very, very young team. And, you know, of the 38 players on our roster, only 10 have 3 or more years experience in the major leagues, which is very, very young. So you got to be careful with that. But the talent level of the young players is very good.
Better to be careful with good talent than with poor talent.
Well, that's right. It's not, you know, a problem is when you don't have somebody to play somewhere. You know, a pleasant problem is when you got three guys for one spot.
Like in the infield, for instance, this year.
That's right. And you know, we really are formulating that right now. The key guy out there is Ordonez. Really, he's the one that if he's the starting shortstop, then we've got three players for two positions, really, realistically, in Vizcaíno, in Alfonso, and in Kent, and they'll have to decide who's going to play second and third among them.
Gutierrez grounded out, and now Mike Hampton, the pitcher, grounds out. 2 quick outs.
That's Husky playing first base. You know, that's the experiment right now. He's been hitting so well and swinging the bat that we're putting him over there at first. With Bronya out right now for a little while, it's a good opportunity for him.
Very good opportunity, and you have the players to take advantage of those chances. That's good. But let me tell you about experience. If experience counted, we never would have put a man on the moon, Joe.
That's right, Ralph.
Nobody had been up there before.
That's right. That's right. Well, you hope that in 162 games and all these preseason games, they're going to get their baptisms real quick.
1 ball and no strikes.
This guy pitching today does not look like he has never pitched a major league
Boy,
game.
he is really he's solid.
They haven't hit the ball hard yet through the first time through the lineup. Second pitch to Hunter. 2 balls, no strikes to the Houston center fielder.
Ironically, the 2 players that you're talking about most down here aren't even on Major League roster.
No, that's right. And they're both out there on the field right now.
Paul Wilson and Ordonez.
3-0 now to Brian Hunter, who skied to center his first at bat.
But I noticed you left room to put him on the roster. You only have 38 players on the 40-man roster.
Well, that's right. That was by design. We figure there's going to be anywhere from 1 to 4 players who are not on the roster who are going to break with this ball club.
Second walk given up by Paul Wilson. He has struck out 2, and he's airing it out a little more than he did in his first 2 appearances.
There's a strike to James Mouton. As a matter of fact, Terry Collins telling me before the game that last Tuesday, when Wilson pitched against the Astros in Kissimmee, that they were impressed with Wilson, but the Mets pitching coach Greg Pavlik saying he throws a lot harder than that. So that's what Terry Collins is seeing, I think, this afternoon. Nothing in 1 to Mouton.
Again, we're still early down here. We haven't even reached the midpoint, so we've still got some ways to go.
There goes Hunter. Swing and a miss, and the throw by Maine, the Mets catcher, is late, and Hunter with the 4th Houston stolen base of the spring.
And Hunter getting a good jump right there. Good throw by Maine, who was the first-string catcher for Kansas City last year, and he's probably going to catch in the early part of the season for the Mets with Huntley having problems physically.
Our doctor seems to assure us that Huntley will be ready for opening day, Ralph.
Good.
He's the one that he feels really strongly that he will be ready.
Strike 3 call. 3rd strikeout for Wilson, and after 2.5, no score here in Port St. Lucie. And we're back after this from Coke Classic. Joined in the booth by Joe McIlvaine discussing the Mets strategy. And Ralph and I were talking about it as Edgardo Alfonso taps toward the right side, bobbled by Sims, and Hampton misses first base. I was going to say, Joe, it's going to be very difficult to keep Edgardo Alfonso out of the lineup.
Well, that's that pleasant problem you talk about, Timmy. You know, where you've got talent, and you just got to figure out the best fits. And, you know, when you play 162 games, no matter who's the starter, these guys are going to see action. There's always things that happen, and depth is very, very important in a long season.
Well, Alfonso can play short. He plays third. He plays second. And you got Kent, who plays third now and also plays second. Vizcaíno, a fine player at all 3 positions.
That scored, by the way, an error on the first baseman, Mike Sims. Could have been a hit.
Might have been an error on the pitcher for missing the bag.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, it was
he had the ball in time.
You're working into the broadcasting regimen very well.
Last week I was on and I yelled tag him, so, you know, I'm not a professional broadcaster. Sorry, Tim.
No, I think that's great.
Are you supposed to have enthusiasm? But you're not supposed to be that biased.
All right, all right. That's all I've heard all week. Everybody's been yelling tag him at me all week.
Brent Maine pounds one to right field, and this ball is gone. Home run, Brent Maine, 2-0 Mets. Wow.
Brent Maine hit one home run the entire season last year for Kansas City. He stroked that one.
That was against Ricky Bonas, as a matter of fact, for the Milwaukee Brewers. And Brent Maine showing the power that Todd Hundley usually exhibits.
We were really happy to be able to acquire him this winter because of the fact we've got such a young pitching staff, and he is one of the best handlers of pitchers in the major leagues.
That's a very, very interesting point.
Yeah, and his father has been the coach at Orange Coast Junior College in California for a long time, and he grew up around the game. And we have a catcher in our system, Charlie Green, whose dad also was the coach at Miami-Dade South for years. And when you get kids that grow up around the game, whether they know it or not, it rubs off on them, and they just have a good instinctive knowledge of the game.
Oh, the one home run last year, but one here in spring training. This ball is really hit hard because the ball is going against the wind. And you acquired him for an outfielder by the name of Al Shirley. He doesn't rank that high as a well-known ball player.
Well, Shirley was a #1 draft. Shirley's got great tools. He only has had one problem in professional baseball, and it's a big problem: lack of contact. He'll strike out way too much, but he can run, he can throw, and he can play the outfield. And he's got great power, and he looks great in a uniform. He just hasn't learned to put the ball in play enough.
And you forgot to mention that Wilson got a base hit. That's his first hit in a major league uniform.
Well, you know, Isringhausen hit a home run the other day. Maybe this is going to be like the staff in the 80s. You know, we had pretty good hitters with those pitchers back in the 80s. When you put Gooden and Fernandez and Darling up there and Aguilera, they were all good hitters.
This one hit hard by Gary Thurman. Nice play, Gutierrez. Thurman safe at first base. Wilson forced at second. One out here in the third.
A lot of boys would have been doubled on that play, but Thurman is really quick with his feet. He gets down that line real well.
I get the impression you like Thurman very, very much.
Well, I saw Thurman in high school, and it goes back to when he was in high school in Indianapolis, and we had a choice that year of Stanley Jefferson or Gary Thurman when it came our chance to draft, and we took Stanley Jefferson. And Gary, I've always had in my mind. I've always wanted to get him if the opportunity presented itself, and this winter as a minor league free agent, he was available, so we took him. We thought when we traded Damon Buford, who is the type of player that Gary Thurman is, that Gary would be a guy that could give us what Damon Buford had given us last year.
Ray Ordonez, the shortstop, with one out and Thurman at first. A good hit-run situation. And Dallas telling us that he thinks that Ordonez can be a very, very good #2 hitter if he can hit behind the runner, put the ball in play with the runner in motion, especially a guy like Lance Johnson.
Right. Well, you know, if you watch him in batting practice, Timmy, he'll spend time hitting the ball to left, hitting the ball to center, hitting the ball to right. You don't see many young hitters when they come up do that. They're trying to jack you.
Hit and run situation, and he waves through it, almost on cue. That looked like a quasi pitch out anyway.
Well, he did his job. He tried to keep the catcher honest by swinging at the pitch way out of the strike zone. So you can't fault him here, just that they made a pitch that couldn't be touched. Look how far away this ball is. He swings at it, misses it. But a good play by the catcher, Eusebio, as he throws out the runner.
You know, that's one thing that you don't see as much as you used to. It used to be a rule when you were growing up that when the runner was running, you would swing to protect the runner. You don't nearly see that as much today as you used to. But that was definitely a protection swing, trying to give the runner the advantage of with the bat in the catcher's face.
But you keep the catcher back and make it an honest throw, at least by swinging at the ball. And you might even hit the catcher's glove, and then you got catcher's interference.
Exactly.
Grounded up the middle. Gutierrez, nice play, but safe at first base is Ordonez.
You got to hold your breath when you see those valuable ball players diving into first, don't you, Joe?
You don't encourage that, Ralph. In fact, the scientific studies have tried it both ways, and none of them's ever found it to make it get you there quicker.
I thought if you could get to the finish line faster, they'd be diving over that 100-yard mark all the time.
That's right. That was a really outstanding play by Ricky Gutierrez, just to make that a close point.
Point well taken, however, Ralph. a man who makes his living with terrific hands and will for a long time, subjecting those hands to injury diving into first base. Just too many things can happen. Happened to Dave Hollins of the Phillies 2 years ago when he broke his thumb against the Mets on a Sunday afternoon at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Ordonez is all right, and with 2 outs, he's the runner at first, and it's 1-1 to Bernard Gilkey.
We have one player on this team who has a penchant for that, and it's Jeff Kent.
Boy, does he.
And you know what?
He's hurt himself.
And he'll agree with you, but when the emotion of the game takes over and the minute comes, your logic goes out, and it's just your instinct takes over. His instinct sometimes is to dive into first base.
Base hits are valuable, though.
Fly ball, right center field, drifting back is Hunter, and over and can't make the play. Ordonez will score. Husky chugging into third base. The throw is late. 3-0 New York. I said Butch Husky. It's Bernard Gilkey with a triple. So the Mets with 3 here in the 3rd inning as Butch Husky steps up.
That ball just kept blowing away from Hunter. The faster he went, the more it just kept blowing. He never really did glove it. It looked initially like he got his glove on the ball. He did not.
Now Hunter hunting for the ball before it hit the ground, but unsuccessfully. Butch Husky lined to short his first time up. Breaking ball is inside.
Husky's really been hitting the ball well down here, Tim. He's probably hit the ball the hardest and the best of just about anybody here.
MVP of the International League last year. He had a tremendous year.
Now, this is a golden opportunity for Butch. You know, he's out of options this year, so he really has to make the ball club where the club has to put him on waivers and anybody in baseball can claim him for $20,000, and that is not going to happen.
You folks have heard it from the man who could make it happen. I mean, he says it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
When you got that much potential talent, you're not going to let somebody pick him up for $20,000.
That's right. You know, power is a very hard thing to find. You know, legitimate power is tough to find, and he has legitimate power.
6'4", 235 from Lawton, Oklahoma. Waves at the breaking ball, so Husky down, but the Mets are up with 3 here in the 3rd inning. And after 3, it's 3-0 New York, and we'll be back after this from Dodge. 3-0 New York here in the top of the 4th inning, and in for the play-by-play, my partner, Ralph Kiner.
Okay, gentlemen, great to be with you again, and we have Joe McElvain with us, the general manager of the New York Mets, and we've been sort of remiss because we didn't talk about Wilson's base hit, and we got Kevin Roberson taking over in left field for Bernard Gilkey. Gilkey played in last night's ball game. And Wilson, of course, in college ball didn't bat. I mean, he was in a league where there was a DH, right?
Yeah, high schools and colleges throughout the country really use the DH. The pitcher certainly can bat, but generally they're going to have an extra player. And I like that from an amateur standpoint because it gives another player a chance to participate. But at the professional level, in the rookie leagues and in A leagues, the pitchers also do not hit. The DH is used exclusively in A ball and the rookies. In double and triple A, it's the same rules. If you're playing in a National League park, you do. If you're playing an American League team in an American League park, you don't. So he did get the hit last year in 1995 because he split the year between double and triple A.
My theory is you talk about Paul Wilson's at-bats instead of his hits. If he gets a lot of at-bats, that means he's pitching well.
You're right.
Well, they got an at-bat and got a base hit. Now working here in the 4th inning. And it's a foul ball for strike one. Derek May, the leadoff batter for the Houston Astros, as the Mets lead it by a score of 3-0. May has struck out in his one appearance. Wilson so far has not given up a base hit in this game and working the first 3 innings.
Derek May, I'm sorry, Derek May is, you know, the son of Dave May. Remember Dave May out there with the Baltimore Orioles? And the interesting thing, Dave May is about 5'8", 5'9". This boy is about 6'4", and he's from Delaware. And then you had Cal Ripken. His father's about 5'8", and Cal Ripken's about 6'4", and he's from Maryland. So they got the second generation growing a lot bigger than the first down that area of the country.
Read better. I mean, you go back a while.
Did you research that, Ralph?
Oh, yeah, because I've got 2 boys that are much bigger than I am, and I know they ain't better.
Of course, you were from California, though, not the Baltimore area.
That's right. But what's that got to do with food? You could import it. Well, there's the first hit of the ball game by Derek May.
See, your theory worked, Ralph. There he is, base hit.
Derek May, if is a knock on him, he's big and strong, and there's no doubt about it being big and strong, but he doesn't hit the ball hard. He gets a lot of hits that way, so his problem really has been hitting the ball hard with that side.
You know, in high school, I went to see him one day, and he hit a ball into a center field tree that was about 450 feet from home plate. And I thought when I first saw him, this is going to be a big-time power hitter. And he really hasn't developed quite that way. He's turned into a good hitter for average, but hasn't hit with the power, just as you said, that people thought he would.
And now the next batter, Mike Sims, goes after the first pitch and pops it up to right field, where it's caught by Carl Everett. May holds at first base.
You know, you never forget what you see as an amateur. When you go see players at the high school or college level, even though it may be 10 years later, you still remember your first impression of that player.
There's really no surefire gauge as to whether that player may have reached his potential early in his life or whether that potential is going to blossom 2 or 3 years later, right, Joe?
That's right, Timmy. That's the hardest thing about baseball scouting. That's why, you know, in football and basketball, you're taking college seniors, and 95% of your first-round draft choices are going to play in the big leagues. In professional baseball, when we hold the amateur draft each June, 59% of those drafted in the first round are someday going to get their name in a major league box. So you're dealing with a lot lower percentage.
Only 59%. Now the batter, Tony Eusebio. Eusebio grounded the second his first time up. As you look at Ordonez, the shortstop. And while you gave me a perfect lead-in for a book that was written, Ground Ball Foul, and I was talking to Red Murph, who was a scout for the New York Mets and the man who signed Nolan Ryan. And he has a book out in the market called The Scout, and it's subtitled Searching for the Best in Baseball. And Red Murph, of course, worked for the New York Mets, signed many of the Mets' great ball players. And he has a foreword in his book that's kind of interesting. To every scout who ever drove 200 miles too fast, dodged an 18-wheeler, missed one of his children's special events, this book is dedicated to. Well, a ground ball for the out as the runner moves on down to second. Incidentally, Red Murph with a book called The Scout, and it's on the market right now. That recommended reading by Word Publishing.
Having been in that position, Ralph, everything he says there is absolutely 100% true. You take and you just dedicate your life really to what you're doing out there. Nothing and no one in baseball appreciates scouts as much as those who have been in that position.
It's a rather lonely business, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And the first pitch chopped out to the first base side. Husky has it, and now tossing to the pitcher, Paul Wilson, and that will end the inning. So the first hit of the ball game by Houston, a single to left field by Derek May, and 1 man left on base. The score at the end of 3.5 innings, the Mets 3, Houston nothing. Mets and Astros here in Port St. Lucie. The Mets leading 3-0 after 3.5 innings. This game is brought to you by Nobody Beats the Wiz Total Home Entertainment Center. And by your Tri-State Toyota dealer. I love what you do for me, Toyota. Jeff Kent will lead it off for the Mets. Jeff grounded out his first time up. He has now had 2 hits and 13 at-bats in this spring training season. And the first pitch for ball 1. Mike Hampton on the mound for Houston. Astros came into this game with a record of 2-6. The Mets with a record of 5-4. And we also have Joe McIlvaine, the general manager of the Mets, sitting in with us.
Ralph, you'll notice that Jeff Kent's got a real wide open stance this year. You know, last year was closed quite a bit, and he's experimented with different things, but he feels he sees the ball better with the open stance this year, so he's going with that.
You know, Joe, that's not anything new in baseball. More and more players are doing it now in baseball, but at one time, one of the great hitters of all time, Marky Vaughn, Hall of Fame shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates, also played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, hit that way as a left-hand batter. And Kent grounds to the shortstop, Gutierrez, and the throw to first base for the out.
Who was it, Rogers Hornsby, that was in the far corner with a closed stand?
He was deep in the batter's box, the very back corner of the batter's box, and drove right into the ball and had tremendous power to right center field. Probably the greatest right-hand batter that ever hit. He averaged 400 for 5 consecutive years. That's hard to believe.
It's incomprehensible.
Best batting average of any right-hand batter in the history of baseball, a second baseman by trade, and at one time a coach for the New York Mets. He was with the Mets in 1962.
Do you think he could hit 400 in today's baseball, Ralph?
Well, he's would be about 76 years old, maybe about 380.
Back in his day, really, seriously. You think there could be a 400 hitter again in baseball?
I think so. I really do. Tony Gwynn came close, and he doesn't run that well, but I think it'll happen. I really do. You're going to find somebody that has that kind of talent. There's so much talent in baseball today anyway.
You know, it's interesting when you say Tony Gwynn can't run anymore because he does have bad knees, but few people remember that when he first came to the big leagues, his first year or two in the big league, he stole over 50 bases.
Oh, he could fly.
Yeah.
But the wheels have gone. Of course, he was a great basketball player at San Diego State.
That's right.
2-2 to Carl Everett. Everett with a single his first time up and a good off-speed pitch there, and he is struck out. Second strikeout for Mike Hampton. 2 men away here in the fourth. Out on the bullpen for the New York Mets,
Second baseman,
John Franco. Franco was scheduled to be the third pitcher used by the Mets, but with the rain coming down, it's drizzling here, I think they want to push him up a little bit and make sure or hope that he can get the work in if and when the rains become heavier, and the game has a chance to be stopped.
Yeah, they shook the hand of Wilson after last inning, so I'm sure Franco's due to come in.
Another eye-opening start and appearance for Paul Wilson, who has now gone 9 innings during spring training. He's given up 5 hits and no runs in 3 appearances. 2 innings his first outing, 3 his second, and 4 today. Very, very impressive.
Not only his stuff, Timmy, but his poise for a young man.
Yeah, Ralph and I were talking about that earlier. That's the thing that you can't see with Paul is almost as impressive as the things that you can see.
Well, that's why he has a chance to be so good. Not only is his stuff good, but his insides are excellent.
Would you liken him at his early stage in baseball to Tom Seaver as far as the mental outlook is and poise?
Well, yeah, I think that without laying something like that on him, as great a pitcher as Seaver was, he has those possibilities.
And Edgardo Alfonso takes inside the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Reminds me a lot of Roger Clemens. That's the guy that comes to mind more so even with me, because he's a bigger guy, big guy.
1-2 pitch and grounded to the first base side, and that will end the inning. A 1-2-3 inning for Mike Hampton. Did you ever see Seaver's derriere? It's pretty big. So after 4, it's the Mets leading by a score of 3-0, coming your way from Port St. Lucie. Now here's a word from Miller Beer.
you just won a t-shirt, courtesy of Customer Assistance and Court.
3-0 the Mets as we go to the top of the 5th inning. A new pitcher for the New York Mets.
John Franco, as Ralph said, rushed into duty early in the game because of the possibility of rain. As a matter of fact, it is raining now, so Dallas Green hoping that John can pitch at least 1 inning. This is only his 2nd outing, and he's worked 1 inning so far this spring. Those numbers are last year's numbers. John Franco with 295 career saves, and that is the best all time for left-handed relievers.
And as he comes in the ball game, Jerry Brown has taken over at third base for Jeff Kent, and we'd assume that they're making a change in the batting order with Brown batting in the 9th position. Franco, of course, signed originally with the Dodgers and was traded away because as he was in the minor league organization, mainly a starting pitcher, they had Steve Howe with the Dodgers. Of course, Howe ran into all the drug problems that you could find, and they were without a closer, and they had Franco in their organization, but traded him because of Steve Howe being with the ball club to the Cincinnati Reds. And the Mets got him for Randy Myers, and Randy Myers doing some great work for Cincinnati and the Cubs, now with the Baltimore Orioles.
By the way, Ralph, I'm just handed this note that you just got a phone call from Tom Seaver, who called from Greenwich, Connecticut, talking about his anatomy like you were to Joe McIlvaine. What's going on there?
Well, I didn't say anything other than the fact that he was talking about a big man and Roger Clemens, and I just said, have you seen Tom Seaver's derriere? Now, you can have any kind of implication of that you want, and my attorney will be contacting Seaver's attorney, I'm sure, shortly. So David Hojak will lead it off against Franco, and it's ball one. Hojak came into the spring training game here with a record of 2 hits and 10 at-bats, and he takes for ball two. Hojak not on the Major League roster, playing second base in today's ball game. Mets 3 runs, 5 hits, no errors, and Houston no runs, 1 hit and 1 error. Franco back and picking up a strike for strike one. Franco, born in Brooklyn, lives in Staten Island, graduated from Lafayette High School, same high school that the president of the Mets, Fred Wilpon, graduated from, and also Sandy Koufax. Ground ball to third, fielded by Brown, and a quick out.
Ralph, I have not talked to John Franco about this particular problem, but I think John's going to have to change his technique as far as facing right-handed batters. When he comes into save situations, depending on the right-handed batter, of course, if you get a very enthusiastic hitter or an over-anxious hitter, that's the kind that Franco just eats up, because he throws balls out of the strike zone on his first and second pitch. But I think he's going to have to throw more first-pitch fastballs for strikes.
Which he did right there, and the ball hit on the ground to the second base side. Alfonso picks up the assist, and the Mets get the second out of the inning.
John, much more effective when he throws that dying changeup out of the strike zone. And that's really what pitching and hitting is. It's that constant adjusting. When the hitters start taking early in the count, well, that's when you start throwing more strikes.
So now 2 men away, and we have a pinch hitter at the plate. It is Orlando Miller, and he fouls off his first pitch for strike one. Miller, the pinch hitter for the pitcher, Mike Hampton.
Orlando Miller, the regular shortstop for the Astros.
.262 batter last year for Houston with 5 home runs and 36 runs batted in the second full season in the major leagues. Franco back again and missing with the fastball, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike.
But there again, 2 straight hitters where John threw first pitch strikes.
One of the problems he had and has had over the last couple of years with the Mets is getting behind hitters and walking batters.
Or, which could be worse, getting behind hitters and then having to come in with a 2-0 fastball or a 3-1 fastball. Because the experienced hitters in the National League take early in the count against John.
And that pitch fouled away. The count goes to 2-2. John Franco twice has led the National League in saves. And as Tim pointed out, the all-time leader in saves for left-hand pitchers in Major League history. Dave Brighetti at one time held that honor. As that ball is fouled, and the count stays at 2-2. The all-time leader in saves, Lee Smith, and he's still racking them up. He's way out in front.
Even though Lee Smith of the California Angels will miss probably the first month of the season. He injured his right knee in a hunting accident over the winter. Boy, do they have adequate replay. That Troy Percival, I mean, every scout in the major leagues wetting their lips when they see Percival pitch.
And the ground ball is short. There's the great Ordonez making one of his spectacular plays. He handles those hops just unbelievably well. And there's a sign of future right there. 1, 2, 3 in the inning for Franco, and the score at the end of 4.5 innings. It's the Mets 3 and Houston nothing. Here's a word from your tri-state Toyota dealer. Ordonez right here with a spectacular play as we move now to the next half inning as Ordonez makes that throw and picks up the last out of the inning. We have some changes on the Houston side. The pitcher is Alvin Morman, M-O-R-M-A-N. And also in the ball game, Jerry Golf, the catcher. So the new battery as we go to the bottom half of the fifth inning. An official ball game now with a light rain falling, and coming in for the play-by-play, once again, Tim McCarver.
Brent Main is hoping that he can do something once again. He had a 2-run homer his last time up as Jerry Goff is the new Houston catcher. Let's take another look at the Ordonez play, and folks, believe me, if he stays with the Mets this year, you're going to see this all season long. Talking to Bobby Wine, who was a great major league shortstop. Bobby saying it doesn't appear that Ordonez ever gets a bad hop.
Yeah, well, if I were a shortstop, that was a bad hop, and he made it look easy.
Yeah, that was a wicked hop that Ray just had to field to end the fifth inning, and he made it look relatively routine.
You know, the thing that's amazing when you watch him play is his body position and balance.
Yeah, balance is extraordinary. 0-1. Brent Main hammered one off his foot. The thing about Ordonez, he was a defector from Cuba when the Cuban national baseball team played in Buffalo a couple of years ago. And then he defected, and he was thrown into a lottery of Cuban defectors, and the Mets won the lottery. And you're talking about Tom Seaver. I mean, that's how the Mets signed Tom Seaver back in 1966.
He was signed illegally by the Atlanta Braves, and so it was declared a free agent, and the Mets had to, I believe the price was like $30,000, maybe $35,000, and they put their name in the hat with only 2 other clubs, and they were the winners against Cleveland and Philadelphia in that lottery for Tom Seaver's contract.
Our producer, Jeff Mitchell, and it's great to be back with Jeff and Steve Olbaum and Rick Miner, all the troops here at WWOR, but Jeff reminding me that Tom Seaver was not a Cuban defector in 1966. So I should say, unlike Seaver as far as his defection is concerned, but like Seaver as far as the lottery was concerned. 3-1 now to Maine. Another one hit hard. Second baseman David Hajek makes the play. 1 out here in the fifth. 3-0 New York. Scored all 3 runs in the 3rd inning.
Third baseman, number 6, Jerry Brown.
We're both going to get phone calls from Tom Seaver. You talk about his anatomy, and I'm talking about his
defector.
Yeah, his political persuasion.
You'll get the record straight. He's from Fresno, California, and he grew up in the raisin business and went to USC after spending some time in the Marine Corps. He graduated from University of Southern California and signed right after that. Actually, the reason why he was signed illegally is sort of an interesting story. Johnny Moore, a great baseball player and one of the great scouts of all time, did not know that Seaver had played in a game that was not on the schedule. USC had put an extra game in, and he signed him after he had played in that game, and that was against the rules. So he declared a free agent after Johnny Moore signed him for Atlanta.
That's how the Mets signed Jerry Brown, and the governor hammers one to left field. Jerry, a very handy man for the Oakland Athletics and the Florida Marlins recently. Singles on the 2-1 pitch, and he's at first base with 1 out, and Gary Thurman, the center fielder, is the batter.
And he's called the governor because he comes out of the Virgin Islands. St. Croix, I guess, is the island he was raised on.
Well, I think he's called governor because his name's Jerry Brown, after the former governor of California, Jerry Brown.
Mm-hmm.
No, his father just died.
That's right.
Jerry Brown's still alive, yeah. 0-1 to Gary Thurman, the center fielder.
All the time I thought he was the governor of St. Croix. Or at least that was the reason why they called him that. I didn't know it was Jerry Brown.
Yeah, Jerry Brown, the governor.
Governor of California.
There was a... Now, wait a minute now.
Well, he could have been called Ronald Reagan.
There was a governor of St. Croix called
No,
Jerry
no,
Brown.
no. I'm just making that up.
You got me on that. 1-1 to Gary Thurman. Alvin Mormon throws to first, but the governor scampers back. Well, of course, Jerry Brown, I guess, as famous for dating Linda Ronstadt as he was for being the governor of California. I think we're straying a lot earlier this year.
Well, this is only the first game.
2 balls and a strike now to Gary Thurman. Mike Covage, the third base coach. And over at first, Frank Howard. Hondo. Hit and run was on. Thurman lifts one to right center field, and it's hauled in by James Mouton, the right fielder. And there are 2 outs with Ray Ordonez coming up. Mets had their organizational dinner 8 days ago. And that was a week from yesterday. Frank Howard sitting with Nelson Doubleday, who owns the New York Mets, with Fred Wilpon, and I happened to be at the table, and Frank was telling a story about how Gil Hodges, when he managed him with the Washington Senators, had Frank one day, and he said, Frank, there will be a weigh-in tomorrow, or in 2 days, and I want you to be down to 260 pounds. Frank complied. He was down to 260 pounds, and he was very proud of himself, and that night went out and gained 14 pounds. He weighed in the next morning at 274, and Gil tricked Frank by saying, Frank, we're having another weigh-in today. Obviously, Frank was not, he made the first weigh-in. The second one, he was only 14 pounds overweight. But you talk about a guy who was one of the all-time great eaters, Frank Howard.
He's amazing that he, well, he's so active anyway as a coach, even at his age right now. But I rank him right up there with the best as far as eating is concerned.
1-1 to Ordonez. Frank 6 feet 8 inches tall. This one hit to left center field. Over is May and Hunter, and it's Hunter who calls off Derek. And the Mets fail to score in the bottom of the 5th. However, it's 3-0 New York. We go to the 6th after this from Bud Light. Right, Hondo? 3-0 New York here in the top of the 6th inning. Myriad changes, as is often the case in spring training games. Kevin Flora is the new center fielder for New York. James Thurman is out of there. And Tim Bogar spelling Ray Ordonez at shortstop. And Charlie Green is now behind the plate as Brent Main with a very interesting day, a 2-run homer to put the Mets on the board. Brent is on our mic in the third base dugout here at Port St. Lucie, the Thomas J. White complex. Kevin Flora now is out of the game. I should say Flora was probably warming up in center field. Thurman was out momentarily, and now Thurman is back in the game. So that deal was
fake, huh?
That went for the head fake. So Brent Main is on our mic. Brent, a terrific day. You hit that ball pretty well.
Thank you. Yeah, that felt good. Ooh, there's one.
That had to feel good, too, as John Franco got down and turned his cap around, didn't it, Brett?
That did it right there. Yeah, that felt good. He threw me a little, just a tiny bit of a cutter, and I saw it real well, had good timing, and for one of the first times in spring, you know, struck the ball pretty well.
James Mouton coming up after that single by Brian Hunter. Hunter, the leadoff base runner for Houston here in the 6th inning. Mouton 0 for 2 on the afternoon. High to Mouton, and Joe McIlvain telling us during the game a couple of innings ago about your father and your father being a coach in Southern California. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, he was a coach at Orange Coast Junior College for, I don't know, probably about 15 years, and has retired, I think, in about 89 or 90, right around there, and has since gone on to more or less tutor some professional guys. This year he's been with the Oakland A's organization. They're sending him like 10 guys at a time right before spring training, mostly middle infielders and catchers to tutor him. A year prior to that, he was with Seattle, and so he kind of has a good situation where he's out of competitive baseball, but gets to stay in it and help guys out professionally.
What's the most important thing your dad relayed to you growing up?
I don't know. I played for him for a year, and basically that's where I learned how to play baseball. The mental aspect of the game, I guess, is what he drilled into me, as far as just being able to roll with the punches and keep a level head about playing. Just go out and play hard and let things take care of themselves. He taught me that.
An infield hit by James Mouton. John Franco with nothing to do but hold that ball. And Derek May now coming up with 2 on and nobody out.
Your father, Mike, what was his background for that sort of type of coaching? Was he a professional player at any time?
No, he wasn't. He stopped playing at University of California, Riverside in college. Never played professional baseball, never coached professionally. More or less, it was just rumor, and he had a lot of players that signed professionally from Orange Coast College, and just the word got around that he could teach catching and teach middle infield, and the professional people kind of went and sought him out and worked out a program that worked out for my father as far as, his teaching schedule and not being able to leave and so forth.
Fastball outside, nice play by Charlie Green, and it's 2 balls and no strikes to Derek May.
One of the great college coaches was Rod Dado at USC, and of course he had a fabulous reputation for coaching and turned out some great teams at USC. You were on the championship team at Cal State Fullerton, though.
Correct. We didn't win the World Series when I was there, but we were there. I think we came in 3rd place or something. Stanford beat up on us a little bit.
I have never realized this. Coming from Kansas City, do you realize how much you look like a former Kansas City catcher, Jim Sundberg? Has anybody ever told you that?
No, I haven't been told that, but I'll buy that.
Yeah. You hope you stay around as long as Sonny did.
Correct.
About 18 years with Texas and Kansas City. Boy, he was a terrific catcher. And speaking of 2-run homers, let's take another look at the 2-run homer you had in the 3rd inning here, Brent.
You see you can't see the replay.
I don't have a monitor here.
It looked like it was a fastball. You said you thought it might be a cut fastball. Boy, you really got on it.
Yeah. I would like that tape, though.
Ground ball toward first. Bruce Husky throws to second and back to first.
Ooh.
Safe at first is May.
I do believe he got him.
That would have been a dandy double play had it been turned, but Husky gets the lead runner and 1 away here in the 6th.
This is the toughest play for a first baseman, trying to get the ball down to the shortstop, covering at second, and not hit the runner, and it looked like they got him on the double play, but not in Japanese.
Osamu Ino, the first base umpire, called May safe, but it did look like the throw beat him.
No, actually, they flip-flopped. We have Osanu now at 3rd.
Osanu has moved around toward 3rd.
They're moving the umpires around right now, I think, so everybody gets a chance to get a taste of first base.
Paul Nart, now the first base umpire, and Mike Sims takes a fastball inside, ball 1. Brent, I guess it's too early to tell. You spent the last 5 seasons with the Kansas City Royals. Too early to tell about the difference in the 2 leagues. But what is one thing that you would bring to the American League to the National League? That might be a vague question, but what is the one thing you learned over there that you think will be useful for you here in the National League?
Well, as a catcher, and I played with Bob Boone last year. I played for him and Gene Mock, so I learned quite a bit about you know, situations and just how to go about throwing, how to go about facing hitters. You know, I bring that over. That's always been my strong suit anyways, but I don't think it really matters that much who the guy is or what league you're in or whatever. The same situations arise over and over, and I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of how to approach hitters. And I think I can bring that over and help these young guys out a little bit. We have an incredibly talented staff of guys throwing, but
they're fun to catch, huh?
They really are. They go about their business in a nice way. But on the other end of the scale, that you know, some of them have never even thrown on this level, and a couple of them have only thrown for maybe a half a year or so. So I can I think I can bring some understanding and some information over for those guys to on how to go about facing hitters and what to do in situations.
Mike Sims driving in the first Houston run of the afternoon. It's now 3-1 New York, as Jerry Goff is the hitter. His first at-bat of the afternoon. Tony Eusebio was the catcher, and a pinch runner, Ken Ramos, is at first base. Running for Derek May. 2 outs here in the 6th, 3-1 New York. Foul back, 1-1 to Jerry Goff. Brent, we're going to let you go in out of the rain. We really appreciate you being with us and wish you a lot of success with this great young pitching staff. You're going to really enjoy yourself, I think, in New York this summer.
I think so, too. Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks,
Thank you.
Good luck.
Take care.
It is raining all around us. North in Vero Beach, south in Miami. Port St. Lucie, about an hour and a half north, or about 2 hours north of Miami, an hour north of West Palm Beach. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Jerry Goff, the catcher. There goes the runner. So Ramos will be sent back to first, and it's still 1-2 to Jerry Goff. Mets fortunate to get this game in today. It is an official game now, with New York on top, 3-1. 6 hits for the Mets, only 3 for the Astros. A very strong 4 innings by Paul Wilson. Strike 3 called to Goff. The Astros on the board, but the Mets lead it 3-1. We go to the bottom of the 6th after this from your Tri-State Toyota dealer. Changes for the Houston Astros with the Mets on top 3-1. Ken Ramos stays in the game, and he'll play left field for the Astros. Ex-Met, ex-Pirate with the White Sox, John Cangelosi in center field. Mike Bromley, the right fielder. So an outfield change, and Kevin Roberson will lead it off for the Mets. Here in the 6th inning, New York on top 3-1. Inside, ball 1, and there's a break in the action. Ought to be a great time to break for the great taste of Bud Light. Big hit with fans everywhere, because it won't fill you up and never let you down, so make it a Bud Light. 2 balls and no strikes to Roberson, and you can't hear that spot that we just read and not think of the St. Louis Cardinals for the first time since 1952, as this one is off the foot of Roberson. 2 balls and 1 strike to Kevin. St. Louis Cardinals, who open at Shea on April the 1st, will not be under the ownership of the Anheuser-Busch, who is one of our sponsors and has been forever. They sponsor many, many sporting events. Huge advertising budget. So AB not owning the St. Louis Cardinals, what a strange, strange thing. First time in 43 years that the Cardinals will field a team under new ownership. Robertson, a A good play by Gutierrez, but a high throw, momentary bobble, and we'll see how it's going to be scored.
Not an easy chance as the ball is hit to the left side. Gets it on the heel of the glove, not in the pocket. And too late to pick up the out on the recovery.
Yeah, it's an error on Gutierrez, but a very, very tough error. Not only new ownership of the Cardinals, but new manager, too, Tony La Russa.
And the stadium's going to remain Busch Stadium.
For at least the time being. As Butch Husky fouls it back, Butch 0 for 2 on the afternoon.
And that ballpark, that ball club was purchased by Budweiser from Fred Sy, who was the owner before Budweiser had it.
Alvin Moorman is the pitcher. Mike Hampton started the game. He went 4 innings. It's the second inning for Moorman. 3-1 New York. Mets have won 5 and lost 4 here in spring training. Houston has won 2 and lost 6. Jose Vizcaino, the on-deck batter.
Well, Tim McCarver had the pleasure of playing in Busch Stadium over the years. He was there when they first played the game at Busch Stadium after leaving Sportsman's Park, where the Browns and the Cardinals shared that ballpark, an old ballpark that was certainly legendary for the lore of it.
Right on the corner to Husky, a ball and 2 strikes. Yeah, the first game at Busch Stadium, the new Busch Stadium, on May 12th, 1966.
They had the All-Star game that year, and it was on one of the hottest days that St. Louis had, and they asked Casey Stengel, who was in attendance, what he thought about the new ballpark, and he says, well, it holds the heat very well.
Holds the heat well. 2-2 to Husky. Casey was a coach on that team. That was his last year as the manager of the Mets, I believe, wasn't it? 66?
I think that was his last year. Wes Westrum taking over after Casey had to give up being manager because of an injury, broken hip.
There goes Roberson. The throw is high. Very quick release by Jerry Goff. But an errant throw and a stolen base for Kevin Roberson.
The Mets get their 15th stolen base of the season, and this is their 10th ball game. A different ball club, as they use the stolen base very well. They have used it this spring. Robertson, one-time Cub player, now with the Mets.
Full count to Butch Husky. Hit foul. Still 3-2 to Butch. This is our first of 5 broadcasts here in spring training. We will be with you on Thursday night when the Mets entertain the Los Angeles Dodgers. 7 o'clock will be on the air. And then Friday night, Mets and the Orioles. Ground ball right side. Husky with a prudent out there, moving Roberson to third base. Kevin is there with 1 out.
The Astros, right field, number 4, Mike Brumley.
And Jose Vizcaino is the pinch hitter for John Franco. And we'd like to welcome Bernard Gilkey, who started the game. He had an RBI triple in the third, 1 for 2 on the afternoon. Bernard, welcome to New York via Florida.
Thanks a lot, Tim. I appreciate it.
A native St. Louisan, was it difficult to leave your hometown?
Well, at first it was kind of hard. You know, I've been there all my life. Grew up there and had an opportunity to play in St. Louis, and so it was kind of difficult. But coming over here to the New York Mets and getting a big welcome with open arms, and you know, seeing all the young talent we have here, I'm very excited about this year.
You attended University City High School, I believe, in St. Louis. The infield in, by the way, for the Astros, and 0-1 to Jose Vizcaino. This one inside, 1-1, University City High School, and there was an unusual story about how you signed. I believe you had a football scholarship to a Bay Area, or a basketball scholarship to a Bay Area school. Is that not right?
Well, it was a basketball scholarship to Drake University. And I had signed a letter of intent, and I was just about going to Drake and had an opportunity to sign a minor league contract as a free agent with the St. Louis Cardinals, and took the opportunity.
And weren't you playing for an amateur team in St. Louis at the time, an amateur baseball team?
Yes, and I got signed out of Wichita tournament, the NBC tournament out in Wichita.
And so no basketball scholarship, huh?
No, I'm glad I'm glad I didn't go as far as to seek a basketball career.
Yeah,
turned out better.
Yeah, good for you.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
It's 2-2 to Jose Vizcaino.
Hey, Bernard, Ralph Kiner here. I got to ask you about something that happened to you in the minor leagues that never happened to any other batter. 3 hits in 1 inning.
That was kind of unusual. We had a pretty good inning that day. We scored like 17 runs. I didn't even know it was my third opportunity to get a hit, and some guy said, hey, I bet you nobody ever did that before. So I went out there and got another hit, and it was a great feeling.
3 hits in 1 inning. Boy, you got to have a lot. That's something else.
Were you with St. Petersburg that year or Arkansas?
No, actually, I was in AAA.
Oh, you were in
Louisville? I was in Louisville, yeah. We batted around 3 times. I got 3 hits in 1 inning. It was unbelievable.
You know, Gene Stevens of the Boston Red Sox did that. He's the only major leaguer to ever do that.
Carl Everett fouls it back. 2 outs as Vizcaino's down on strikes. We're in the 6th inning. 3-1. Kevin Roberson on at third base and 2 outs.
Of course, not many guys get a chance to get up 3 times in 1 inning.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
You got to rely on your teammates, right, Bernard?
Exactly. We were having so much fun, I didn't even realize it.
That's what you call a team effort, right?
There you go.
1-1 to Carl Everett.
Well, I'll tell you, the Mets, I think, are going to really benefit with your fine hitting. You led the Cardinals in hitting last year, and your defense and base running. So, welcome to New York. It should be a lot of fun this year.
Thanks a lot, Ralph, and I'm looking forward to it. We have a group of good guys around here. Everybody's working hard, and very talented team, and I think we're going to come out and win some ball games this year. It's going to be fun in New York.
2 balls and a strike to Carl Everett.
Attaway.
Hammered up the middle as Bernard Gilkey cheering in the background. And it's 4-1 New York as Roberson scores, and that ball crushed to center field.
Atta baby, E.
Hey, you talked about the talent on the team. It's got to be a real joy working behind a pitching staff that works as quickly as the New York staff works, Bernard.
That's true. I heard a lot about the pitching staff over here, and now I'm really getting the opportunity to see these guys work. You know, I heard so many good things about them, and so far everything is true. These guys get the ball, throw the ball with good velocity on it. They work fast, and they get out. So that's important, you know, for a defensive team. We're going to play good defense that they don't keep us out there too long.
Edgardo Alfonso takes a strike, 0-1 to Edgar.
See, that's how outfielders think. When you get out there and you have a bad pitching staff, you're out there standing in that hot sun if it's a day game, and you say, boy, I'm out here too long. Let's get back to the bench.
That's right. Let's go hit.
That's right.
Get some of that wood and let's get going.
Long ends and short outs.
It's going to be a lot of fun around here. These guys are really exciting.
Also, the thing about you won't have to be standing that artificial turf in St. Louis where it gets up to about 160 degrees on a sunny day there.
That's true. That could be a real blessing. I had enough of those days.
How many times did you come off of that turf and jump in the ice bucket with both feet? I mean, that is a hot place to play.
That's true. We do that from June on. I mean, once June comes around, the sun comes out, and the AstroTurf really heats up, and we just jump right into the bucket of water.
Yeah, but look at, they got rid of the turf now since they got rid of you, and so now the new guy's going to have a chance to stand on grass.
That's all right. We'll pay him back. Get in there. Come on.
Double clutch, and it looked like Carl Everett was hit on the helmet. So Bernard Gilkey, almost like with an invisible rope, pulling his teammate around the bases. A throwing error, by the way, on Mike Sims, the first baseman.
This gets him on the helmet. There's no doubt about it. Watch it come right off the top of that helmet. That's why they wear them when they're on the bases. And a lot of players need them in the outfield, too.
That's using your head call.
Very heady play right there, and the Mets have a runner at third.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Edgardo Alfonso, and he takes a breaking ball that just misses 2-2. 4-1 New York here in the 6th.
Yep.
Right center field, and it is down, Bernard. You folks are having the opportunity to listen to 2 announcers and 1 rooter.
I can't help myself.
Oh, I love it. That's great. It's what you're supposed to do.
That's one good thing. We all pull for each other over here. Everybody's excited about this year, and I think we're going to pull together and surprise some people around here.
Well, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that a surprise is in the offing anymore, because I'll tell you, with the young pitching staff and the young hitters, I think you're going to score some runs, too, Bernard.
That's true.
And it is down, Bernard. You folks are
now
having the opportunity.
You know, that's what goes on with the players when they're on the bench that you don't get a chance to hear in the regular season. But that's the way the players, most players, root on the bench when a ball is hit like that. Get down.
0-1 to Tim Bogar, his first at bat of the afternoon. First hit for Edgardo Alfonso, an RBI double. 5-1 New York. 3 in the 3rd, 2 here in the 6th. Lead the Houston Astros, trying to win their 6th game of the spring. The fastball is low from Alvin Mormon. 2 balls and a strike to Tim Bogar. Bernard, we appreciate your time, and we're going to let you get in and stay dry, okay? Thanks a million, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hit hard, but right at Jackie Gutierrez, the shortstop, so Bogar continues to hit the ball hard. The Mets continue to score runs. They lead at 5-1 after 6, and we'll be back after this from 9 after.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to announce the winner of the flagship news.
Top of the 7th inning, the Mets on top 5-1. They've played a very good, crisp game. Paul Wilson, a strong performance, 4 innings, no runs. Kevin Flora in right field. And Luis Rivera, the new second baseman. Edgardo Alfonso out of there. So is Butch Husky, as Chris Jones takes over at first. And Doug Henry takes over on the mound. And Ralph Kiner takes over for the play-by-play.
And Bill Spires will lead it off, the former Mets player of last year. Spires in this game has walked and grounded out. And Henry will start off here in the 7th inning. Mets leading by a score of 5-1. And the first pitch, a fastball, popped up to left field. Kevin Robertson chasing, and he's there to make the play. Tim Bogar, the shortstop, also out there and making way for Robertson. So 1 pitch and 1 away. And that'll bring up David Hajek.
Second baseman, David Hadjick.
You talked the last inning with Bernard Gilkey, kidding Bernard about saying get down as far as the balls are concerned. Well, you also say that as far as the players are concerned. Tim Bogar getting down and avoiding an injury.
Tough conditions here as we have very cold weather and also a lot of wind, and it has been raining throughout the ball game as the first pitch by Henry is out of the strike zone for ball 1.
All the folks in New York are probably saying, cold, I don't want to hear about it.
Relatively cold, let's put it that way. And this ball fouled out of play. Temperature right around 50 degrees with a chill factor. That would be a little bit less than that.
Of course, the chill factor in the Northeast the last several days has been in sub-zero weather.
What a tough winter, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we hope it makes for a good summer. This one off the end of the bat can't be picked up, but Henry continues on and takes the throw from the first baseman, Chris Jones, for a good out. This is what you call team play.
Well, Henry couldn't make the play. So it's Jones to Doug Henry. If you can't make the play, continue to first and become the first baseman.
Did a good job.
Yeah, good play on both ends.
So now the shortstop, Ricky Gutierrez, will be the batter. Ricky has had a good day. He's 0 for 2 at the plate, but defensively he's had some good plays at shortstop. Missed the fastball. And we have with us John Franco, who worked 2 innings in this ball game. John, of course, the senior on this ball club. I guess you get tired of that, don't you, John? With all these kids, though, it's not that bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Well, as long as I keep feeling them ground balls and pitching zeros, we don't care.
So, John, we got to go to commercial. Stay there. We'd like to talk a little more with you as it's a 1-2-3 inning for Henry, and the score, it is the Mets leading by a score of 5-1. Here's a word from Bud Light.
Start half of the 7th inning now. 9-4.
Mets leading by a score of 5-1 as we go to the bottom half of the 7th inning, and we have new shortstop Ray Holbert taking over at short for Ricky Gutierrez, and Gutierrez has moved over to second, and on the mound is Mark Small. Ajak, who was at second base, has moved over to third, replacing Bill Spires. So relocation of 2 players as they stay in the ball game, and 1 added, and Brown takes an account 1 ball and 2 strikes. And we still have John Franco with us, so we'll be talking with John as that ball is fouled off. John, you worked 2 innings here today. You're starting to get into the middle of spring training. How did you feel?
Not too bad. Still feeling a little dead arm right now, but that's the only way to get over that is to keep throwing and getting some innings in here, and which Pav and Dallas wanted me to do to stretch it out a little bit today. And I felt pretty good out there, and the arm feels pretty good so far.
John, explain that dead arm syndrome. How guys feel so good initially, then the dead arm, and then you hope it gets better when the season starts.
It's just a process of coming in, or during spring training, come in and do your throwing, and then while you're down here for 2 or 3 weeks, your arm kind of gets tired from all the throwing that you're doing, and it's called a dead arm syndrome. And the only way to get through that is to keep throwing and try to build up the strength and throw through it. So most of the guys have either had it within the last week or still do have it, and everybody's just pitching through it for the last 2 weeks of spring and then get into the season.
That fly ball caught by John Cangelosi in center field, so Brown is out. And it brings up Gary Thurman. Thurman 0 for 3. All those things, of course, you've experienced throughout your career. You're the veteran on the ball club, and it's something to be expected and something that you just work your way through.
Yeah, well, a lot of the younger guys are coming in rubbing their arms, and my arm feels dead, it feels like garbage, but, I don't think they've experienced it yet, and now they're experiencing it, and, basically you just tell them just keep throwing through it and they'll feel better. I know the other day Jason and Pulse had it, and look what they did. They just threw a shutout against the Braves, so, that's not too bad.
Didn't appear Paul Wilson had a dead arm today, did it?
No, sir, that kid can throw. He can throw, boy. It's going to be fun this year watching all these young guys, Paul and Jason and Pulse and even Juan Acevedo, if he makes the team. Those guys got some great arms.
Charlie Green, a batter, and batting for the first time, and he singles to center field. And the Mets have a base runner with 2 men out here as they bat in the bottom of the 7th, leading by a score of 5-1. John, down here in spring training, you've been sort of the camp leader. You've thrown parties at your place where you're staying and inviting the younger players over. It has to be a lot of fun. It's a great thing for you to do.
Well, it's good. We had a little team golf outing last week. Dallas gave us the day off. We'll come in early. He didn't give us the day off. So if he came in early, no, I'll take that back. But we came in, got our work done, and we had a good team golf outing, and we had some fun. And then I invited a bunch of guys over to the house. I'm staying at Brett Saberhagen's house, and guys, going out and eating every night and staying in the hotel. So I just invited them over for some steaks and chicken, some fish, and cook it up for them. And
you do the cooking?
Oh yeah. And Joe Astonio was our entertainment. He
does magic tricks.
He does some great magic. 45 minutes of nonstop, and he just kept breaking out new tricks. And it was a fun night. And that's something that you need to have some good team chemistry, good camaraderie, and get to know everybody.
And a high pop-up. I know Joe says he felt he had to pay for his dinner with his magic trick.
Well, as much as he ate, he'd still be there.
So 3 putouts in the outfield by John Cangelosi. The last one ends the inning. 1 hit, 1 left. And the score at the end of 7.5 innings. As we say goodbye to John Franco, thank you very much, John. We'll return right after this message. We're going to the top of the 8th inning. The Mets leading by a score of 5-1. And Doug Henry will work here in the 8th inning, his 2nd inning to work. He worked the 7th inning, a 1-2-3 inning. Doug Henry, the 3rd pitcher used by the Mets in this ball game as they lead by 4. And his first pitch, ball 1. Out in center field, Alex Ochoa has taken over. And this pitch fouled off as Ray Hubert fouls off the pitch to make the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Ray batting for the first time in this game as he came in defensively. One ball, 1 strike with Ray Hobart, the batter, and he takes that pitch for a ball call, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike. Mets scored 3 in the 3rd and 2 in the 6th inning to take a commanding lead, leading by a score of 5-1. Count goes to 3-1 as Henry misses again. Ground ball up the middle. Backhand play by Luis Rivera, and he gets his man at first. Good play by Luis Rivera, who at one time played for Montreal and the Boston Red Sox. This copyrighted telecast is authorized under television rights granted by Sterling Doubleday Enterprises, LP, solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of Sterling Doubleday Enterprises, LP, is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of the program, such as by charging admission for its showing, is likewise prohibited. Now the batter, John Cangelosi, and the veteran takes the pitch for ball 1. And Cangelosi hits it in the air to center field. Alex Ochoa with his first chance, and he puts it away. So 2 men away.
Number 4, Mike Brumley.
And the batter coming up is Mike Brumley, and he's batting for the first time. Two men out as Doug Henry, used in relief, works from the set position, no windup. He has not appeared as a starting pitcher for the Mets since coming over here. And Brumley fouls it off for strike 1. Brumley takes, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Brumley in the ball game in right field. Two balls and 1 strike the count with 2 men out. Top of the 8th inning, the Mets leading by a score of 5-1. A good fastball there. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
That's what pitching coaches love to hear. They love to hear the pop of a catcher's glove, especially in spring training. It gives you an indication of how hard a pitcher may be throwing.
And this ball hit hard to right field, coming hard. The right fielder, Flora, he can't hold on to it, and we'll see how it's scored, probably as a base hit. It is scored as a base hit. So a well-hit ball by Brumley in his first at bat, and a runner on with 2 men away, and that will bring up Ken Ramos.
Looked like a slider over the middle of the plate. Pitchers try to get that ball in, right on the belt, right on the hands. Flora could have made the catch. Tough play, but looked like the ball hit off the heel of the glove and a base hit for Brumley.
And we mentioned it earlier, and it's bears mentioning it again. It's tough fielding and tough conditions for all these players here today. Wet grass, wet everything, rain throughout the ball game. Cold day for Florida. And the Mets leading by a score of 5-1. 2 men out. Runner at first base. The count, 1 ball and no strikes. Ramos, the batter, and batting for the first time. He fouls it back out of play. The feature of the ball game, Paul Wilson worked the first 4 innings, gave up no runs, allowed just 1 hit. His earned run average this spring in 3 outings is 0, and we're going to be talking with Paul. As a matter of fact, he's down there with us, and a quick hello to Paul Wilson.
How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great, and you're doing great. Everything working in order for you, I guess.
Yeah, I felt good today. It's kind of bad conditions, but I tried to make the most of a somewhat cold day.
And Paul, you're also making the most of a situation right here, trying to make this ball club, and you have not had a bad outing in the 3 appearances that you've made so far this spring.
Well, I think every time I'm going out there, I'm trying to work on something. Obviously, I want to make this team, and there's not any sure spots on this rotation. So I'm kind of at a disadvantage. A lot of these guys have got their set positions, and they can go out there and just work on their pitches. But I got to go out there and improve myself at the same time, trying to get my arm stronger. So I think I've been pretty successful doing that so far, and I'm very pleased with what I did today.
A little more velocity today than the past. You look like you were up there pretty good. What would you say you were out close? 80%?
I'd say about 80-85%. As far as command-wise, I think I'm still a little bit off. As far as strength in my arm, it feels real good. But as far as command and in location, I think I'm still about 2 weeks off it.
Oh, it's still early.
Yeah, and I'm not rushing it. I know it's going to come. I know it's going to be there. When I just got to be patient and just realize what I have to work on, and what it's going to take some time. So I'm not pressing, or I'm not panicking or anything. So
4 innings of just 1 hit. You allowed 5 hits now, 9 innings. But you'll probably go out tonight and talk about something else, your base hit.
You're darn right I will. I've been working with Mac in the cages every morning, and it's going to be nice to say, hey, I finally got one, and that work's paid off.
You're making the batting coach look good. So we'll be back to talk some more with Paul in just a moment, as the Houston Ball Club did not score, and the score at the end of 7.5 innings, the Mets 5 and Houston 1. And here's a word from Hyundai. Well, back here at Port St. Lucie, and the Mets leading by a score of 5-1. We have Paul Wilson with us, and he pitched a brilliant 4 innings. And gave up no runs on 1 base hit on a cold and blustery day here. A couple of changes for the Houston Ball Club. We have a new pitcher in the ball game, and it is Scott Bankhead. At first base, we have a new first baseman. Mike Brumley has moved in to take over first base, and Bobby Brew has gone into right field. There is Brumley. And Brew is in right field, as Butch Husky will lead it off. Butch is 0 for 3 today. There's the right fielder, Bobby Brew. Chris Jones is the batter, I should say, hitting in Bruce Husky's spot.
Come on, Chris.
Jones batting for the first time.
Ralph, you mentioned we have Paul Wilson. Paul, we appreciate you staying out. You know, your first year of professional ball was 1994. You went 0-7 that year. And during the winter, I understand you lost a lot of weight. Number one, why did you think it was important for you to lose weight? And number two, do you think it helped you?
Well, after I signed, I gained a lot of weight. I kind of got out of focus, and you know, I paid the price. The 0-7 was kind of a wake-up call for me, and I just realized that 240 was way too much. I needed to get down to a good playing weight, and I busted my hump all fall, and I got me a personal trainer, and I just said, listen, I'm gonna get down to 215, 220. I'm gonna show them that I'm really dedicated to getting up to the big leagues, and that's what I did. I actually came in about 210.
Number 11,
so
Kevin Flora.
I want to turn some heads. I want to say, hey, listen, you know, I know I started out bad, but you know, I'm here to work and I'm here to play ball, and you know, I think it definitely helped me because all last year I was 215, and I realized that's a great playing weight for me, so I'm going to stick with it.
You led all the minor league pitchers in strikeouts last year, and you had one outstanding game. Struck out, was it 17 batters or 16?
17 batters.
17 batters, yeah. How many in a row?
I don't know how many. I think there was 6 in a row.
8 in a row, I thought.
8 in a row?
Yeah.
8 in a row.
Of course, Tom Seaver has a record of 10, so that's a major league
and I was
record.
in the big leagues, too, so...
That's right.
You definitely got me on that one.
That was against the San Diego Padres. Seaver struck out 10 batters in a row. Nobody's ever done that in the history of this great game. The count strike 2 on Jose Vizcaíno.
Paul, you talked about working out. You also carried that workout ethic over this winter also, right, with several of your teammates?
Yes, I did. I just recently bought a home down here in Palm City, and I'm close to the facility here, so it's easy for me to get over here every day and work out with the trainers they have over there. And you know, Pulse was over here, and Jay Payton was down here, so it was nice to have some guys that I played with and I knew down here, and obviously I had some guys that stayed with me at my house, and we went to the Golden Gym or whatever. So I have a lot of guys surrounding me that want to work and that, you know what it takes to get it done. So it's really quite easy. It's just a matter of getting up and going out with those guys and doing it. So.
And your parents, your family, not that far away, right? Up in Orlando.
Yeah,
your mom and dad still live in Orlando?
Yeah, 2 hours away. They're here today, probably getting wet. They've probably been here since 8 o'clock.
So the double play erases the base runner, and the batter, Luis Rivera, will have a count of 1 ball and no strikes as he takes the first pitch. And Luis pops it up in foul territory. It'll be back into the stands out of play.
Paul, an interesting thing that comes to mind, did you have aspirations of possibly signing a professional contract before you went to college or at any time during your career at Florida State?
When I was a senior in high school, I was drafted in the 55th round by the Pirates, and you know, I wanted to play so bad. My dad knew otherwise. My dad knew that you know, once I matured a little bit and went to college, that I could turn out to be a better pitcher than what I was. You know, I wasn't very strong, or I wasn't very tall out of high school, so he knew the opportunity that, or he knew the potential that I had. But at the time, I was really, you know, 55th round. It sounds, that's a terrible round to get drafted in. But you know, I wanted to play. It didn't matter. I wanted to play pro baseball, and fortunately for me, that he's got a better head on his shoulders than I do. So you know, I listened to him, and obviously he's right. You know, I don't regret, you know, not signing. I think it's the best thing that could ever happen to me. But you know, that's why I rely on him. I mean, he knew it was better for me, and you know, as it turns out, he was right.
Wise father and a very good move. But not only that, you improved certainly physically and also as a pitcher, but you had got a college education.
Exactly. You know, they give you the opportunity at Florida State to make yourself into a better man. I mean, they give you every opportunity to make yourself better as a baseball player and as a student. And I took advantage of that.
Well, this one popped up in foul territory by Luis Rivera, and that will end the inning. So, Paul, thank you very much for being on with us. A great job of pitching for Paul Wilson.
Thanks a lot.
Mets leading by a score of 5-1 as we go to the top of the 9th inning. And here's a word from Kohler. Mets leading by a score of 5-1, top of the 9th inning, and we'd like to remind you, day in and day out, at home or on the road, you can always count on the great taste of Bud Light. It won't fill you up and never let you down, so make it a Bud Light.
Number 63.
And a new pitcher on the mound for the Mets, Rick Reed, has taken over, and he is a very interesting story. 8 years of professional baseball, 8 in the minor leagues. He's been in the major leagues. All told, Rick has played with 8 different teams, 8 different cities, 5 different major league teams in 5 different cities. He's been granted free agency 3 times over a period of 10 years. And his first pitch is hit on the ground to third base to Jerry Brown, and the throw will be in time for the out. Make it safe at first base. So Bob Abreu leads off with a base hit.
And he flew down the line. Remember, it is a slow track out there, but not for a guy like Abreu. Jerry Brown did all he could. And the conditions now just deplorable. Rainy, cold, and the umpires doing their best to get 3 outs in this inning and call it a day. It's amazing the teams got this game in.
Under tough conditions, and the throw to first base in time. Rick Reed, a replacement player for the Cincinnati Reds. He joined the ball club in the season last year, pitched in 4 ball games, 3 starts. He had no record. And one of the replacement players that has been ostracized by the Major League Players Union. 5-1, and the pitch outside for ball 1.
Well, Donald Fear, the head of the Players Union, met with the Mets earlier, and Rick Reed was asked to leave. And in today's paper, an interesting distinction was made by Marvin Miller, the former head of the Players Union, that the so-called replacement players are not replacement players, nor were they. Nor were they replacement players. I don't know if it's a law, but if an impasse is reached and the employer hires other employees, then they become replacement employees. But since the season didn't start with those employees, but spring training was played last year with those employees, it was Marvin Miller's point that it would be incorrect to refer to them as replacement players.
And from a technical standpoint, they are actually, the terminology is a scab. It's interesting what the union is responsible for. They're responsible for the medical benefits of ball players that are in the major leagues. They're responsible for the pension plan for players in the major leagues, and also for arbitration if it's an arbitration on salary, but not arbitration against any other ball player. And they're also responsible for the grievances that come up with the owners, but not against ball players. And one of the things that you cannot get if you are a so-called replacement player or a scab and not recognized by the union, they can't get into the union as it now stands, is they do not get the licensing revenue that other Major League ball players get, which amounts to anywhere from $28,000 for last year up to $70,000 or $80,000. And that's along with their salaries. So there are a lot of difficulties that confront players who some call replacement players, some call scabs. And Rick Reed is one of them. And now with the Mets trying to earn a job in the major league. 3-2 the count. And this ball hit high in the air to right field. It'll be playable in right by Flora. And Flora, who made the last out of the inning, makes the put out here for the first out here in the top of the 9th inning.
Number 60.
Mike Bush is probably the most famous of the replacement players. He joined the Dodgers while the Mets were playing L.A. last year at the end of August. And the players refused to talk to him. Brett Butler was one of the most vehement in that department. They did make up later on. But as it turned out, the Dodgers got into the playoffs and received playoff money. They did not vote Mike Bush any part of that playoff money. Butler, who joined the club just 11 years 11 days before Bush joined the ball club, received close to $10,000 and 2/3 share. So there is an awful lot going on with so-called replacement players, and Reed is one of them.
Mike Bush with a chance, by the way, to make the Dodgers as a pinch hitter this year.
And the batter takes for a count of 2 balls and no strikes.
Seems to me that ownership and the players ought to put that behind them and put that particular episode behind them.
I certainly think this has got to be worked out some way.
Yeah.
I mean, it just can't go on the way it has been going on. The union, the players' union, meets with all the teams in spring training, discusses the problems that they might have. Of course, they don't have an agreement with the owners, and that is still pending. And the replacement players are not invited into those meetings. They have nothing to say, as they are not members of the union. They have not been accepted by the union. Runner at first base. The Mets leading 5-1. 1 man out, top of the 9th inning. So the walk will put runners at first and second. As Rick Reed has his difficulties here in this 9th inning. And the batter coming up will be David Hachek, and he is 0 for 3 in the ball game. Reed, the 4th pitcher used by the New York Mets. Paul Wilson started, worked a very strong 4 innings, giving up no runs on 1 hit. John Franco worked an inning and then make that 2 innings, and then Doug Henry worked a total of 2 innings, and now Reed trying to close it out, and the first pitch fouled away out of the play. 1 strike to count on David Hachek. And strike 2. Reed has been around a long time. Born in Huntington, West Virginia, and lives there.
First major league start against the Mets, as a matter of fact, when he was a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That was in his 3rd year. He jumped from AA ball to AAA and then to the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was 1988. Has been in the majors and minors every year since 1987. Total of 8 years. He's been a free agent. He has been granted free agency 3 times in his major league career. He has some interesting and controversial stats. 1 ball, 2 strikes as Reed comes back again and just does miss. Count 2 balls and 2 strikes. When he joined the Cincinnati Reds last year, the team voted to keep him off the team. The management of the Reds voted to keep him on the team, and he appeared in 4 games, 3 as a starting pitcher with no record. Two and 2 as the count stays on the foul ball. 1 man away. The Mets 2 outs away from ending this ball game, leading at this point by a score of 5-1. They've out-hit the Houston Astros 10-5. Mets came into this game with a record of 5-4. Ground ball to third. They'll try for 2, and they will get 1. So now the Mets just 1 out away. And let's check out our Nobody Beats a Whiz game summary. The Mets, Wilson 4 innings, a strong 4 innings with no runs and 1 hit, 3 strikeouts. Franco 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run. Henry 2 innings with 1 base hit. And the catcher, Brett Maine, with a 2-run home run. Everett had 2 hits and a run batted in, and Robertson 1 hit with an RBI. So that's our Nobody Beats a Whiz game summary. as they lead by a score of 5-1 and not away from picking up their 6th win of the year. And that pitch outside for ball 1. Gutierrez, the batter, he has played throughout this ball game and is 0 for 3. And that one fouled away, so it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Rick Reed's minor league record, 89 wins, 48 losses, and 8 saves. He appeared in 224 games in the minor leagues, and he had 163 game starts. This pitch fouled back out of play, so Reed now a strike away from ending the ball game. Runners at 1st and 3rd. Ricky Gutierrez, a veteran ball player in the major leagues. As Reed tries to close it out. Right on the black, and that will end the ball game as Reed gets the called 3rd strike. So Houston threatens but leaves 2, and the Mets win it by a score of 5-1. The Mets coming up with a strong performance here today, led by the pitching of the starting pitcher for the Mets, Paul Wilson. And we'll be back with a wrap right after this word from Mazda.